Washington's clear-thinking headquarters. The Morning Majority, 5 to 9 on 630 WMAM.
737 Morning Majority. Brian Neiman, Mary Catherine Ham from the Daily Caller, and from Fox News as well. Stuart Varney from the Fox Business Channel joins us now. So, Stuart, before we get into the comments, say, now that Beck's stepping down at 5 o'clock, opens up a spot for Stuart Varney, huh? 5 o'clock on the mothership. I think that sounds good to me.
I didn't know you were going to introduce me like that, Brian. What is this show called? Ambush nowadays?
not ambush. I just think it would be.
It's a very friendly ambush.
That's right.
Mary Catherine, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Okay, so we obviously have been talking about the possibility of a government shutdown a lot, especially here in D.C. because it affects a lot of our listeners. How much of an impact would it have on the overall economy, shutting the government down?
Very little, quite frankly.
Yeah.
In my opinion, very little. Look, you're right. I follow the money. What I find astonishing here is that the two sides are, $7 billion apart?
It seems like that. That number's been floated around, yeah.
Yeah, it may even be less than that. But may I point out that $7 billion is about 10 days' worth of the interest that we pay on the national debt. So if you're talking about, just from the money point of view, you're talking about shutting down the United States government because of $7 billion, I think the public has a right to be somewhat frustrated at this point.
Yeah, I was just saying there'll be something happen in the Ivory Coast, or something will happen in South Korea tomorrow, and we'll wind up giving aid for like $10 billion, and that'll go away in a second.
But you asked a serious question. What's the financial impact of a government shutdown? Well, my answer to that is very, very little. If there was going to be a big impact, you would see it reflected in the stock market. And you're not seeing it reflected in the stock market. The Dow's going to go up again today. The rally continues. So the overall answer to your question is I don't see a serious impact from a government shutdown of, say, 1 week's duration.
Okay,
well, and I've read before that there have been rallies in the stock market during other government shutdowns. Is that the case? And is that the kind of thing that can color public opinion about what a government shutdown means?
I don't think it colors public opinion. It may imply that investors think a government shutdown might not be such a bad thing.
Right.
I think there will be public outrage if federal workers do not go to work for a week, but then get paid for that week.
That probably will happen.
Yes, it happened in 95,
Yeah,
so
right.
that could be another source of public outrage, maybe.
Well, it was reported that John Boehner told Republicans that shutting down the government will actually cost more money than the savings that we'll have by brokering a deal with the Democrats.
I think you could probably say that. I don't know how he arrives at that.
He talks about contracts that have to be reworked, and I guess essentially paying people, and just the fact of shutting it down causes problems as well that you don't really expect.
Yeah, reopening costs might be up there, maybe some overtime costs to catch up with the backlog, something like that. I don't know how he works out the numbers, but if he's right and it costs us more, the shutdown, then I think you've got another source of public outrage.
All right. So the next big vote will be on the debt ceiling. And Tim Geithner, Secretary of Treasury, had a big warning last week essentially saying, hey, we need to get this done, and we need to get it done. I believe his deadline was May 16th.
Yes, that's correct. He says that we will reach the limit of our borrowing power on or about May 16th. And if we fail to raise the debt ceiling, in other words, we just are not allowed to borrow any more money, we will in fact start to default on our obligations in early July. That's the timetable laid out by Tim Geithner.
All right. Is he just fear-mongering, or is that accurate?
No, that's accurate. And here's where I part company with many of my conservative colleagues. I do not believe that we should fail to raise the debt ceiling. I think we should raise it. I do not want to see America default, period. Just don't want to see that. I think it will be a catastrophe for America.
Well, I think most conservatives, certainly members of Congress, would agree that you don't want to actually default. But what do you think, what level of hard bargain should conservatives drive on these spending issues in order to say, okay, well, we'll raise the debt ceiling, but we got to get this done first?
Yeah, if you say, as soon as you say, yes, we've got to raise the debt ceiling, you just lost your leverage.
Exactly. That's why they argue that they could not do it.
I realize that I'm giving away the store by saying this.
Oh, we've blown it.
But I do want to counter the conservative argument, which is, look, we don't need to borrow any more money because we bring in $200 billion a month in government revenues. Why don't we live on that? Well, that's not a sound financial argument, because we spend $350 billion a month. We take in $200 billion. How are we going to cut $150 billion each and every month without inflicting the pain that just is politically intolerable?
And we can't even cut $7 billion. All right, we're seeing gas prices, about $3.60 around here right now, and crude is up to $108, $109 a barrel right now?
You're almost $109 on crude, and the national average for regular unleaded is now $3.72, and perhaps more importantly, diesel has gone to $4.01.
Right.
That's the average gallon across the country. You've got a gas price spike on your hands here.
Well, what's driving it up? Is it real?
Yes, I think it is. It's the market's perception of supply and demand in the future. That means, yes, there are speculators in there pushing the price up, and that's because they perceive a supply problem down the road. Now, you can rant and rave about the role of speculators being, they shouldn't be in the marketplace, but they are. That's how we work things, and they are pushing up the price, and yes, it is real because of a perceived supply problem down the road.
Now, you've been covering this for a long time. Remind me what sort of political price George Bush paid for really high gas prices, and do you think Obama will ever have a similar experience?
He was much maligned.
Yeah.
I'm talking about President Bush. He suffered enormously. He took a huge political hit. The media was all over him. Conversely, the media is not all over President Obama. Prices are skyrocketing. I mean, we're at 372 now, going straight up. Where is the mass coverage by the media? Where are the pressing questions? Mr. President, what are you going to do about this?
Right.
Well,
they're simply not there.
His answer yesterday was trade in your SUV for a smaller car. That's what he told that one guy in the
Hey,
town.
he remembers pumping gas.
Yeah, that's right.
It's really rather pathetic, isn't it? I mean, he gives us Spanish windmills and Brazilian drilling. I mean, it just doesn't work.
All right, Stuart, always great to have you on the show. Thanks very much. We'll be watching today at 9:20 this morning, Fox Business Channel.
Thank you.
Stuart Varney, host of Varney & Company.